The ROG Ally X isn't even out yet, and the internet is hot with the debate whether or not this device is even worth buying or even worth considering over pre-existing options that are already out. And I'm one of those people that feel like this is a good option if you have nothing right now, but if you already have a Steam Deck, a Legion Go, original ROG Ally, it's kind of hard to really recommend this device because in some aspects it is fundamentally the same and you're going to be getting the same experience, but in other ways it is a massive leap forward. But it's really up to each person whether or not that leap is really worth it. I already made a video comparing the ROG Ally X to the original ROG Ally, but how does the ROG Ally X stack up against the Lenovo Legion Go? Well, first off, Lenovo Legion Go uses the same Z1 Extreme processor, comes in the same 1TB or 512GB storage capacities, so in those respects, they're very similar. And thanks to their both larger sizes, they are both quieter and cooler devices. A very immediate and apparent difference is that the ROG Ally X has a 7-inch 1080p 120Hz display, which is nice, but it's the same exact one we've seen already on the current ROG Ally, so it's a nice display, but not the best one I've ever seen so far. Personally, that crown goes to the Steam Deck OLED, but a very close second is the display for the Lenovo Legion Go, which is an 8.8 2560 by 1440p LCD panel, but at 144 Hz with FreeSync Premium enabled. It's phenomenal. But given the great size of the Legion Go, you would think it would have an equally massive battery, while at the time being the largest battery we've ever seen in one of these handhelds at 49 watt-hours. It's now pales in comparison to the Ally X's 80 watt-hour battery, which is double the battery capacity that the original Ally had, and it almost 30 more watts than the current Legion Go offers. Having that extra battery life allows you to play games for an extra hour or two, doubling and tripling in some cases the battery life of the Ally X. But that doesn't go to say that the Legion Go's battery is terrible. It is still significantly better than the original Ally, though not as good as the Ally X will be. I'm still impressed to this day with how long its endurance is. It goes for like an hour and a half or an hour 45, depending on what's happening in most intense games that I play. I can trust that this device won't die if I leave it sitting out for a day or two. My Steam Deck basically is dead within 8 hours of me turning it off. So basically, I turn it off, set on my desk, forget to plug it back in, and I wake up to it dead. Though that could be Windows's terrible, just terrible passive battery management. Both devices have USB 4 ports, top and bottom, allowing you to dock and plug into external displays, things like external GPUs, and docks. A video I made recently about the Legion Go goes into more detail about external docks and GPUs and whatnot, so I would check that out if you're interested in that side of things. But overall, these two devices pair very similarly, but the Legion Go is quite a bit bigger, so therefore it is about 1.3 pounds. It is a heavy device, but thanks to that heft, you do get some extra features like detachable controllers, a built-in kickstand, that larger display that I think is immaculate. So there are some benefits to its size. But thanks to the Ally X's rearranged motherboard, increased battery capacity, overall the device is thicker and heavier than the original Ally, which some might see as the downside, but with the drawbacks that the original one had with the failing micro SD card slot, the terrible battery life, I think the Ally X in that respect is a better device, even though it is thicker. I never really minded how heavy it was, I just wish it was physically a little bit smaller, at least for the Legion Go. The thing that the Ally X has over the Legion Go will be a performance. And not necessarily performance in the sense of that it will have higher FPS. From what I've seen, it is a more stable FPS. And that's thanks to having an extra 8 GB of RAM dedicated for the VRAM for the integrated graphics. This has a total of 24 GB of RAM, allowing for an extra 8 gigs to be dedicated to the integrated graphics. What you usually see is a total of 16 GB of RAM getting divided up between the integrated and the CPU. So what would usually end up happening is you get 12 gigs for the CPU and for all your other main purpose tasks, and 4 dedicated as VRAM for the integrated graphics. In most cases, you won't notice that big of a difference, but in games that are really big, games like Last of Us Remastered, Last of Us 2, any of those kinds of games that come to PC, you will notice the lack of VRAM. Any major AAA titles, you will notice that problem. And once you run out of VRAM, you start swapping with the extra memory that the CPU has, or you start swapping with the internal SSD, which is much slower than the dedicated VRAM that the integrated graphics will have. So it starts slowing down, you start chugging, you start swapping data between those two sources, and you'll start noticing frame drops. And having an extra 4 gigabytes of VRAM just allows a larger frame buffer, allowing for more smooth and steady gameplay, allowing those larger AAA games that require more VRAM to run more stably, smoother. So why not? It might not necessarily be a higher FPS, and it probably will be an extra maybe 5 or 10 at best FPS over the current ROG Ally and the Lenovo Legion Go. It won't be so dramatic that it will be feeling like it's a next-gen device, but what will make it feel next-gen is the smoothness of those current frames getting delivered. Because of having that extra frame buffer, it is getting delivered a lot faster than on older devices like the original Ally and the Lenovo Legion Go. But for me personally, my AAA gaming experience just amounts to the yearly Call of Duty release and Elden Ring. So for me, I don't necessarily need the stable FPS that this will provide, because it's not going to dramatically change those two experiences because it already plays really well on the current devices. Even though the Ally X is inevitably going to be faster than the Lenovo Legion Go, I still don't see that much of an improvement enough to warrant the upgrade. The battery life is awesome, but for people who don't really care about battery life that much, and for me personally, I don't necessarily need battery life to be my top priority, because what I use essentially these devices for most of the time is when I'm playing in the car, when I'm playing in like my bed or a chair around my house, there's an outlet close enough to me, or I have a battery bank on me to charge the device for longer play sessions. Circling back to some of the features that the Ally X is missing that I really wish we could have had is a touchpad. The Legion Go has a touchpad, and it's pretty nice to have, especially when navigating Windows. And not having it on the Ally X, the supposedly like mid-generation refresh to fix all the problems, it's kind of a glaring problem not to have one of these. At least they should have given us one of those little dimple things that are like touch points rather than touch pads that sometimes GPD puts on their devices for when they're too small to have a proper touchpad. Another feature that the Lenovo Legion Go has that the Ally X doesn't is detachable controllers, and if that is how you like to play, sure, that is a massive downside to the Ally X that the Legion Go has. But me personally, as I've established in multiple videos, I don't really even do that sort of a play style with the Nintendo Switch, let alone a Legion Go. And the Legion Go even make a lot more sense to do that because of how heavy it is. But I just don't do that. It just feels weird to use detached controllers when I'm playing games like Destiny 2 that I've gotten so used to having a full, normal controller playing on. The controllers are rather over-engineered to the point where that the right controller has first-person shooter mode, as I like to call it, gun mode, where you can use that controller as a mouse. Aside from its ridiculous name and then less than useful in an actual game experience FPS mode, it is actually a very useful thing to have a full proper mouse whenever you need it to actually like navigate Windows. If you have a tiny little Bluetooth keyboard, you can pair those two things together and get some real work done. It will be kind of weird, but you can do that. I feel like I've been pretty fair to these devices. I think they're both really compelling, especially once the Ally X is fully out and we can fully test it. I genuinely think it's going to be an amazing device. But for people who have already owned one of these devices already, or are planning to buy one of them now, I don't honestly think you should wait for something like the Ally X unless something very specific that it offers is something you really, really want or need. And for me, it really boils down to the price. The Ally X is going to be released at $800. And the Legion Go you can buy right now for just shy of $600 open box from Best Buy, or around $630 brand new. So if, in all honesty, you're looking for the best bang for your buck and it's truly better than something like the Steam Deck and the original ROG Ally, the Legion Go is the perfect solution for you. It has a bunch of unique features, has better battery life, better performance than those two devices, and it has the best display out of those two, at least the LCD version of the Steam Deck. OLED withstanding, to me, best display, but some go either way on that. So that's it. What do you guys think? Are you interested in the Ally X? Are you excited for that device? Or are you happy with what you already have? Or did this video help you decide between the two? I'd love to hear what you guys think down below. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. All the other social media garbage down below. And last but not least, have a wonderful day.